That's strange. I don't. That makes me even want to like. So you gonna talk about?
How I should do what I'm doing. I said, bro, why don't you start your podcast and talk about what you want to talk about? I mean, that's my brother. I can tell him that.
Yeah, that's fine. Hey, bro, y'all should talk about this. Now we don't talk about that. All right, well, I don't want to go. All right, start your own podcast then.
He's like, man, I'm gonna come in there and take over the podcast. I said, first of all,
Intro. Look, I'm sleepy still. Like, I'm groggy.
Welcome to the Identity Booth. That's Heero. I'm Eric. Y'all know what it is.
Eric
y'all
caught me off guard, y'all.
Yeah, I'm knocking on the man door. I give him a couple minutes. Crickets. I text my man, yo, I'm outside. Nothing. I like, okay, I'm gonna call this man, because if I don't call him, I know he's in here taking a nap at this point.
Man, something strange happened to me. I was asleep, y'all, like, on a Sunday. Like, I didn't even call my people. They probably worried about me, like. But, what's up? This is the Identity Booth. My name is Heero. This is my co-host, as always, Eric. And we are in the booth, sleepy. Mm-hmm. Sleepy as hell.
I literally got rolled out the bed. My wife walked in the door. I was like, oh, snap.
Eric rolled up on me and said, you wear do-rags?
Yeah, dude. I like, first of all, what you need with a do-rag? People like, with hair like this don't need do-rag.
But you still don't want your moisture going into your pillow. Like, you know, if you got the...
You got to get a silk pillowcase, B.
No. Well, shit. Or just get a do-rag. Like, which one's easier? Like,
that silk pillowcase feel good on your face.
It probably do. And in no way, it probably feel just too good. That's why I don't.
And the girls love the silk pillow. They're like, oh,
they do. The silk pillows, how it goes.
Pillowcase.
I need to take advice from a man who is married, so this would help me out. I've been peeping my crush on IG. She double tapped one of my pictures, so I know it's real. I gotta take her to go get sushi. I forgot.
Oh boy! If Heero taking somebody to get sushi, it's serious.
I'm serious with her.
Blue sushi is the spot, though.
I'm serious with her, but she might be running out of time technically because Heero might not be. Well, we'll leave that for another day. But Eric, what's happening? How you doing, man?
Man, I'm living life, bro. Just trying to get some money, bro. That's where I'm at right now.
And in the process of trying to get this money, we also trying to take over the world, and that's what we're here to talk about today. But before we can take over the world, we might have to save it, Eric, because we got some issues.
Oh my goodness, bro! I know.
We got some issues, so we're gonna jump right into the news because we might be talking for a minute.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I gotta look directly to y'all on this level. I'd like to send out my condolences to all the victims, first responders, and everybody who will be affected for the years to come because of the the almost blatant disregard for life that was given during the Parkland shooting. Here on this podcast, we're not going to call this monster out because he's looking for publicity, and that's not what we're here to give him. But to the family, to the young kids who are now starting to rise up, 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds who are now rising up and demanding for policy change and disregarding their own feelings in advance of helping a future generation. I just commend you guys, and it's really empowering to see. Thank you guys for stepping up, and once again to the family and friends, we are sorry. We are truly sorry for your loss, and no parent should ever have to bury their child.
Facts.
And it just, man, prayers go out to you, whatever you believe in, whatever you whatever your religious beliefs are. Our condolences are with you, and definitely feel for your situation. So, with that being said, Eric, I mean, do you have anything?
Man, let's just get straight to the policy, man, and what's going on with this. First of all, can we address the way the police handled this person? I want to talk about that first. I was shocked. I was literally shocked at the video and the photos that I saw of how they took this kid, peacefully.
Yeah, I mean, are you? Because we've had an example of this before.
Oh, yeah, the Burger King kid.
Burger King kid.
I know we had, when we were going over our rundown, I told you, like, that kid who shot up the church killed those 9 black folk. And I said, they stopped and got this man in Burger King. I told you, I said, yo, the only sandwich they would have gave me was a knuckle sandwich. Why does this kid get... They should have shot that boy. I'm sorry. Flat out.
He was, based on... The gun was within a 10-foot radius of him. Yeah. He was considered still hostile. He didn't surrender, and wasn't following commands when he surrendered.
And we didn't know if he had any other weapons on him. So why didn't we aggressively handle this boy?
He was approached by... I've looked at the police report and the account for it. Don't ask me questions. Don't ask questions. I got connections. He was approached by 4 deputy police officers and one state trooper. All weapons were drawn. 2 of the officers had tasers drawn.
Oh, the luxury of a taser.
So it's a situation where, it's a definite question, because we were running numbers as of today, more white and me and Eric talk a lot. Me and Eric say a lot of white and black. We draw the line very simple, and if that's like hard for you to digest or swallow, you need to introspectively look at yourself. Mm-hmm. But more white people to today who have been mass shooters have been taken peacefully than black people who have had weapons drawn on them running away in a year. Okay. So
now I will pose a question to you, playing, we'll call it angel's advocate, I guess we'll call it, mm-hmm. on the light side. What if they take him peacefully because they want to know if he's a part of a terrorist organization?
Hear me out, and I have to play even bigger angel. Taking the suspect alive is ideal, mm-hmm. but it's not ideal for every race. We found out. Okay. If there's an event where you can take someone like this alive, mm-hmm. it is ideal. But taking all your suspects in alive is the objective. Mm-hmm. Your objective isn't to be judge, jury, and executioner as an officer. And what we found is that officers dictate, is this person worth living? Is this person worth my time? Mm-hmm. So in the instance of asking this guy to see if it was useful, because we did find out there mm-hmm. is a terrorist cell in Florida.
Yes.
Who has, and I want you guys to hear this now. There's a right-wing group in Florida, and I'll put the name in the description and their whole little get up, who drew up an intricate, detailed plan on how to do this for this young child. And their clown of a leader, once he started to realize people were going to start pointing fingers at him for basically being an accomplice, he said, well, I just gave him the gun and told him how to protect himself. And we have more information because everyone was quick to say this was a mentally ill individual. We now know it's not the case. It was over a girl. This was over a girl.
And once it go back to Heero, the topic you're gonna hear on probably every podcast.
And Eric wants to do a 45-minute talk about this because it's the grounds of his logic, and I love it. Go ahead.
Emotional intelligence.
It's a great point. We talk. Let's do a recap of the 17-year-old neo-Nazi who killed his girlfriend's 2 parents.
Bruh.
Why? Because they made her break up with. Same thing with this girl. Her parents made her break up with him, and he lost it. And he went into that school with the objective to find the boy. I'm not going to say which boy it was out of the 17, but he found him.
Yeah.
This was over a girl. And on top of that, and another big misconception is that this kid is not white. He is white. He was adopted at the age of 4. Both his parents lost. He took the adoptive mother's last name, which is Cruz, which she is Hispanic, but he's 100% white. This was over emotional distress. Mm-hmm. This was over a 19-year-old who was obsessed with a junior in high school.
Mm-hmm. I want to put a pin there because since we're talking about emotional intelligence, I want to make a statement here that a lot of people are missing. When we don't teach men how to properly channel their emotions, we don't teach them emotional intelligence, you get this kind of non-masculine way to deal with things. And the way men deal with their emotions, if they don't know how to properly express them, or if they don't have an avenue to properly express them, they get violent. Violence is what you get when you make men suppress their emotions, or you don't teach them how to properly get them out. So, and I'm looking at society more and more, and what I'm noticing is I find a lot of these young kids, these young boys, they don't have an outlet. They don't know how to do it. Nobody's telling them. So the only thing they know how to do is lash out physically, which that means violently assaulting somebody or murdering somebody. Like all these mass shootings are why. That we see from all these guys are why, because feelings.
Yeah, it's the post shooter, which people wrongly identify as a terrorist attack. Mm-hmm. This was an individual who came from a strict background. He came from a household where sexuality and individuality isn't expressed properly. He was, of course, from a different country, and he had Eastern family background. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, he was gay. Mm-hmm. He was in love with somebody. That person was doing him wrong, was double dipping with somebody else, and he didn't like that. Yeah. And he went up and shot up a gay club and claimed terror. He was so afraid of letting himself be seen, mm-hmm. vulnerably, emotionally. He said, "I was a terrorist," before he said I was gay. So
and it's sad.
And it's sad because like it's a clear indication that there is a certain level of mental compression that needs to be absolved for sure. Mm-hmm. But let's dive deeper into what me and Eric have fondly disagreed about en masse, which is going to be the whole gun issue here. Mm-hmm. And me and Eric both came to terms with we do believe there needs to be some level of gun control.
Yes.
Period. But these are the three things we agree on. And I don't know, Eric, can you see if you can see? We got age.
Yeah, age. Mental. Emotional.
There needs to be a mandatory punishment.
Yes.
And this goes in part with the registration. So just for all intents and purposes, we have an age restriction. We're gonna have mandatory minimum for registration and punishment of penalty to this registration, and a psychological eval and full background scrub to the T. We're talking about a 3-month waiting period to get this completed.
And that's for especially, and these are mainly the mandatory minimums and the age requirement are definitely more so for assault rifles. You know, I mean, I know we discussed about it. Because you can buy an AR-15, an M4, M16 right now for less than $1,500. You can get one from China for like $400. You can alter it to fully auto by watching a YouTube video and having some simple garage tools. That's not cool.
You can't go to a hospital in a country without insurance and get 7 stitches for $1,500.
I'm saying.
Well, you can't get 7 school books for a semester for $1,500.
Not today's kind.
You can't pay 1 tuition fee for $1,500.
And most of y'all's rent is $1,500. Think about that.
Yeah, y'all live in places cheaper than it is to get a gun. Like more expensive. More expensive to get a gun. Like that's painful, man. Like so, and just to start off with that, Eric, we don't agree on the assault rifle. I think there should be a full ban on assault rifles. Yeah. And I don't know, is that something you agree with?
I don't think there should be a full ban on an assault rifle.
And what is your reason for not wanting to get rid of a gun that can kill 45 people in 1 minute? Or rather, and this is me attacking you now. Mm-hmm. Where would you ever need 45 bullets to kill one person?
In the off chance that the government gets to a point, or we get into a state of anarchy, that you may actually need to protect yourself like that. However, I will say that if I wanted an assault rifle, the things we talked about implementing, have your whole life scrubbed. Like if I go and buy an assault rifle, I automatically go on the list. Like you you
give up freedom for that.
exactly. I'm trading privacy for an assault rifle.
And
I'm not willing to trade it for a pistol, but I definitely am willing to trade it for an assault rifle. But again, I feel like it makes the people who want to buy it think twice. Like, wait a minute, I got the state police and the ATF all in my business. You know, I have to have a mental and emotional evaluation from a state authorized psychiatrist. I have to wait 3 months, and the gun costs me 2 months rent. I'm gonna think twice about purchasing that gun.
we're exuberant cost of about $6,000 before you could get that assault rifle, and I'm of the notion if you have to do all of that just to get a gun, it's not worth it. And if it's not worth, my whole thing is like, even if the government wanted to take over or being tyrannical or a militia of some sort. How many people are trained to take down people who are tactically trained? Like, everyone I see that looks like they want to be gun-toting Americans, I don't think they can run 100 yards.
That's true, but their bullet goes 1,000 feet per second, so they don't need to run 100 yards. The issue is a broken clock is right twice a day. I just need to be able to control the weapon and be able to get in the vicinity, especially if I have a SWAT team, 6 people. They've never ever been in my house. They don't know where I could or could not be. So I have the element of surprise.
But I'm saying at the same token, and I'm gonna have to call you. I'm gonna call you out on a fairy tale clause, which is one of my favorite comeback arguments, because part of this segment is also for you guys to understand how to handle these conversations. If you are insulting the person you're trying to convince to come to your side, I'm here to tell you, as a person trying to get you to come over to my side, you're an idiot. You see how great that worked? Mm-hmm. It doesn't. So you have to be civil. You have to be understanding. And my goal of this scenario is to always draw emphasis on focus. So I'm gonna say fairy tale clause cannot exist, because how many revolutionary movements have happened since the revolution that created this country?
How many revolutions we've had?
That
1776.
Where the people have tried to take over the government.
Oh, the people have tried to take over the government. The people haven't tried to take over the government, but the government has run up in people's houses.
Okay, and tell us all those times.
So we got 1776. Mm-hmm. We've got the War of 1812. We've got FDR's New Deal when he sent militias neighborhood to neighborhood to confiscate gold.
70s?
No, that's the 40s.
40s?
It's right after the Great Depression, and then the recession that happened after that. We went from a gold-backed standard to a fiat currency outright, and all the gold was confiscated. After that, the latest one, I would say, well, the Black Panthers, all their homes were raided by militia, and a lot of them were murdered. If you don't know about Fred Hampton and the Chicago PD, how they murdered those people, that's what I'm talking about. That's a reason you might need a pistol. But the last one, Katrina. I saw it on a documentary. These are people who live in the parishes there who had no actual flooding or damage to their home, that were made to evacuate by SWAT team with M4s held to their face. Get out of your house. This is property of the state now. They're not putting that out there, but these things have happened.
All right, and by my count, that's 5 separate times in the history, to the best of your knowledge.
To the best of my knowledge.
So, and I'll give it plus negative of 100. So I'll say 100 times this has happened. Mm-hmm. All 100 times was the Second Amendment open to the public?
Of course.
Okay, so it's fair to say that even when you do have these weapons to your disposal, a lot of these things still happen regardless.
It's because they were going into single person household and nobody actually fired back.
Okay. So it's also fair to say that to some extent, in reality of itself, people aren't going to fight the government.
They're too afraid to, because they see themselves as a singular person and not as a group of people.
So unless, following the Second Amendment, we're a well-regulated militia, you probably won't be able to do anything with your AR-15 against the whole SWAT team.
I would say if I didn't know how to use it, maybe. If I didn't know how to use it,
for sure. If you were tactically trained on that level, you could. One person, we've seen what one person could do. The Dallas sniper, he dismantled the Dallas police point blank simple. He figured them out. He had their clickers and he had them tactically beat, and also had vantage views, perspectives, and the disguise of a crowd. He was the best at it, to my knowledge, which really makes it detrimental.
Yeah.
To my point, to even reaching to my point, people who are asking for AR-15s are hell-bent on destruction.
And I agree. But it goes back to the thing we've talked about before on the podcast. Which races do you want? Do you want the races that sits next to you in the cubby hole and can't say anything to you for fear of losing his job, or the racist that walks up to you and calls you a nigger to your face? I want the racist to come up to me and call me a nigger to my face, because at least I know where you stand. I want the person who wants to buy an AR to go through all those hoops to buy the AR, so the ATF and the state police can monitor this person.
Yeah, and you're right to that extent. I just feel like having a weapon that can because you go through the process, you get the weapon, and then you execute on it. Mm-hmm. It's just not practical, and this is where we'll just draw a line and move on. It's just not practical for you to have the ability to kill 45 people in 1 minute. I don't think anyone in this country should have that ability. Regardless of your creed, your belief, or what having a weapon, having a tool that lets you kill 45 people in 1 minute is inhumane. Okay,
so let's go a step further. Now, they make extended magazines for Glocks and S&Ps.
Yeah.
They make you can go from a 16+1 to 30+1 with just a simple magazine. And while it's not full auto, neither is most ARs out of the box. They're semi-auto, and you can burst fire. You can get 2 to 3 rounds at a burst. But if you know what you're doing with that pistol, you can drop the 30 rounds out of the pistol in a minute or less. I've seen people fire it off. So if we follow that logic, are we going to outlaw extended magazines? And if we go from extended magazines, are we going to only allow people to have a subcompact pistol that holds 8+1? And then if we keep going down this road, eventually the guns are going to go away.
And once again, I'm fine with that. As a healthcare provider, I am perfectly fine with there not being any guns in the world. But at the same time, as a reasonable individual, I understand that people want the feeling of protection. I feel like I'm protected here. Mm-hmm. Some people don't feel safe with their own 2 hands.
Do you think the police should have guns?
I feel like the police should have guns in extreme situations. No police officer should come out of their own vehicle, guns drawn, unless they were told before they arrived on scene, or upon their arrival, they see a weapon. Mm-hmm. My whole entire theory on weapons is weapons shouldn't be drawn unless weapons are seen. So best way to keep weapons from being drawn is to keep weapons out of scene. And we have numbers to back this up. So let's talk about the Australia experiment, which was in Australia, I believe in the 70s. Their government went out and said, hey, look, you have a gun? We're going to pay you 3 times the amount for the gun. You're handing it over. And if you're not, we're going to take it by force. And there was a little bit...
How do they take it by force? They have to go... How do they...
They completed a census. They set it up perfect, to be honest. They completed a census of the country. Mm-hmm. And in the census, they asked people indirectly, do you have means of protect... They use that as a propaganda. We're looking to incorporate a new law that would say that, X amount of people in a family could get a gun. And they would say, so you have enough people in your family, are you interested in being called to get a gun to protect your family? And most of them were like, oh no, I don't need a gun. To the follow-up question, why? Oh, I already have one. Or it was, oh yeah, I want a gun.
So they manipulated the people to find out who had a gun. And so here's the question. If you didn't hand over your gun, what would they have done? They
first it was a penalty, then they brought you into court because they made it a law. They made it a law that guns were outlawed before they went in and got it. So you had the option. You had, not only did you have 6 months to either turn in the weapon, you had 3 years to decide if you were going to leave the country. Because that's going to be the law of their new land. No weapons. You cannot own a weapon. So it's not like they just came in and said, put a gun to your head and said, hand it over. No, they gave you 3 years to reestablish your life, move on. And they even grandfathered some people in. Because there was people who were certain age. I believe the age cutoff was 53. At 53, they were like, we'll allow you to keep going. Because they know in 20 years, 30 years, you're not going to be alive.
And that's fine. So, again, if they wouldn't have handed over their gun, they were going to summon me to court. What if I didn't go to court?
Well, then I mean, okay, and I'm hit you with the extents. If you're deliberately breaking the rules that have been set up by your law, by your land, and has been agreed upon by the people you elected.
Okay, so it goes back to that a group of people who are not the majority, and this is.
You elected them. There was a democratic election.
We understand that most people, especially on a national level, they're chosen.
Yes,
they're chosen, and they sit in a room and decide for why we're gonna take guns away from people. Like I like to think about it logically. Why do you care if I own a pistol?
And we can go forward with that because we now know what happened. 30, 40, 50 years later, after that bill was signed into play, they are dead last practically in mass shootings. They haven't had any. All their homicides and all their misdemeanors are not even 10% of what America is. Statistically speaking, Australia is better off without guns.
Okay, so but I always think of this question because I'm always gonna find a more lethal way to get rid of somebody. Mm-hmm. Like I think along those lines, and people listening be like, "Why?"
Yeah.
I said because if you don't think that way, criminals are thinking that way. And I said if I can't own a gun, now how can I get rid of you long distance? There's other ways.
Yeah.
To get rid of somebody long distance, like I said,
I would definitely prefer an easier way, a harder way to get rid of somebody than an easier way. In a homicide, I'd take that number over mass shootings any day. So I'm not disagreeing with you that people won't find more creative way, and it's important you guys understand. These rules or my theories aren't going to stop mass shootings. They're not
mass killings.
Period. But it's going to help curve the number. In Virginia, I don't know if it's Virginia, but they just stopped. A parent just turned in their daughter who saw the shooting in Parkland and decided to do her mass bombing and shooting of her school April 5th. He found her journal. They turned her in yesterday. Little white girl who was like, yeah, I'm going to blow my school up. And
but here's the question. How did she get the information? I'll tell you how she got it. She got it on the dark web. And she got the Alchemist cookbook. She got the poor man's James Bond and told her how to get household chemicals, how to construct everything, and make a bomb.
Yeah, and kudos to the parents. I can't imagine having to turn in your own child to the FBI, but I mean, because of that, we've probably saved at least one person, if not her.
But that's called good parenting. See, go back to this kid. Where's this kid's parents? Why weren't they supervised? Do you not know how heavily supervised I was as a kid? I grew up in a terrible neighborhood.
And we're gonna talk about let's talk about that right now. There's a mighty interesting correlation that's being put to pass here.
Yes.
The thing, if you haven't been to a black school.
Yeah.
If you haven't noticed, a lot of these mass shootings take place at white school. I'm not saying that well, yeah, I can actually say
you can because
that
when have you seen it at a black school? A mass shooting.
And I haven't scrubbed it, but I thought I saw something that I couldn't confirm in 2012. But Chicago, knock on wood, hasn't had a mass shooting in a school in the last 3 years for sure. And everyone's always talking about how, even our president said Chicago, horrible, sad. they need to get some feds out there to take care of those situations.
Huge gun problem, huge violence problem.
And yeah, it is true. Chicago does have a huge gun problem. Chicago is also the third biggest city in the country. So 7 million people in one spot. If statistically speaking, if 100 people died a month, that's great.
Yeah.
If you got, I'm saying 7, maybe even 3 million, and 100 people died a month.
Yeah,
that's great. Like, it sucks that it might be all one race, but it's still a great stat. So with that being said, why isn't there mass shootings happening in black schools?
Tell you why. Because when you walk into the school, there's metal detector, there's several police, and there's vigilant administration.
Almost to say, because they know there's so many people
with the propensity for violence, the way they curb it is by metal detectors, pat downs, drug dogs, random locker checks. It's caused a lot of violence.
And this is a perfect experiment within our own country to show that it removing guns isn't going to solve the issue. Curving the gun laws will. Chicago has a very strict gun policy. It's a mandatory 2-year felony.
2 years.
Like, that means for every person that gets found with a gun, they're off the streets for 2 years. And that person can no longer commit a crime. So, if you had 100 criminals in a bag, and you poked a hole in the bag and one came out every month, and you were better able to target when they came out, you'd be better at curbing the crime in that community. So with that being said, we now know for a fact that these white schools don't have this luxury.
But they wouldn't consider it a luxury. They would consider it. They would consider it a confine.
Yeah.
Because you're treating my kid like a criminal. You're assuming that they're doing something bad, and this is how a lot of suburban America works. Inner city kids have been subjected to this for over 30 years. I would venture to say closer to 40. I mean, we can go back to South Central LA when blood and cripping was high. That was one of the first areas they did that. And as that gang life moved east in the 80s and early 90s, they were putting metal detectors in.
Even though there was no stats to prove, there was no stats showing that kids were being shot in schools, in black schools. They put up metal detectors after saying something like, we're trying to stop the increase of drugs, because they correlated drug people have weapons. That was their correlation, which is not true at all. Most people who have drugs in this country don't carry weapons.
That's fact.
Like, it's just not something because weed makes you mellow the fuck out.
I'm saying.
So we now know this to be true, and I hate to say it, the oppression that was passed on to black people is saving them in this instance.
Yeah.
And it's something that it's really mind numbing when you think about it. Like, I don't know what to say on it, because it's.
Here's the thing. Like, it initially, I feel like there probably was some pushback from a lot of the black parents and from the black kids that went to the schools, but now it's just a norm. It's like they've been conditioned. It's like, I probably know I can't take this pistol in the school because that cop's not good. They know that cop's not gonna hesitate to shoot me. Number one. Number two, there's metal detector. Number two, there's random locker checks. I mean, no, and too many variables there for people. I mean, you're getting patted down, you're getting wanded, you're having to walk through a metal detector. They're scanning your book bag. You can't just sneak stuff into the school anymore. But it's saving a lot of people. And
now take it a step further. I've gone to a lot of courtrooms. I've gone to a lot of federal buildings. You can't walk in there without getting ID checked, wanded
and walking through the detector.
But so why is it that and mind you, these are for judges. These are for civil servants. So why are we more prepared to protect civil servants than we are our own kids?
That's a good one. And you know what? A lot of these judges, because I've met a few here that in Dallas County, and they carry while they're in their robe. They are concealed carrying. I met a judge. This is back when I was working at Costco, and I was selling him a TV, and we were talking, and I was asking him, about his whole bailiff thing. I was like, why do you guys only have one officer in the court. He's like, oh, because I have a gun too. I'm licensed to carry. I'm a judge. I'm an officer of the court. He said, I have a right to carry a pistol and defend myself. Oh, okay. So you have a gun and the bailiff has a gun in there. Well, I just can't see yours because you have a dress on. He's like, yeah, basically. So.
And that's a good point. And that'll lead me into the superhero dilemma that we're having here. The biggest they are now considering in Colorado to arm their teachers with firearms. First of all, I'm saying to myself, the teacher came to teach kids, not defend them. Like, defend them, sure, but they did not go there to be officers. And then two, we know some teachers are trash, scumbag trash.
I mean, yeah, we see all these teachers all the time banging their students.
Yeah, so
14, 15
so you mean to tell me if one of these kids found out and they wouldn't try and get into a encouragement and there's a weapon there, you're not going to try and silence this kid for your...
Okay, what about just the intimidating... Okay, we've seen a lot of these, because this is what I've seen recently. I know there's males that do it too. Let's just be generic and say there are teachers, both sexes, that desire their students, whether they be male or female. What if they asked them to stay after class, after school, and continually made advances and eventually brandished a weapon, you know what I'm saying, to intimidate the student into doing something they didn't want to do?
That is just so much. I think
it's a can of worms.
And let's take it a step further. There was an officer on the campus at the time of the Parkland shooter. His plan was sort of odd at best. He came in directly through the front of the building during about 15 minutes till the let-out bell.
Yeah.
He pulled the fire alarm. So people were already preparing to leave, and when he let out, I'm confused to know why 15 minutes prior to the bell, the most vulnerable section of the building is unguarded. Where was this campus police officer?
Jiving somewhere.
And they have offices where they sit down now. They're told, oh, you're here, but you're not supposed to patrol because they don't want to intimidate the kids.
No, the kids need to know that, first of all, I'm watching you. Second of all, if something jumps off, I'm alert.
So I don't know the deputy's name, but he didn't discharge a single shot. This took 20 minutes from start to finish. So where was he for the first 20 minutes of that altercation?
Donut and coffee? Mm-hmm.
Or maybe doing what any sensible person who heard a gun go off 45 times in a minute, hiding.
You don't get paid to hide. You have on a full kit, you got on a duty rig, and you've got a 16-round magazine with 3 extra magazines, and you're a trained killer. Let's just be honest.
You said he wears a lot of gear?
Yeah.
Cowards are what color? Yellow?
Mm.
Apparently he hit it well. So, the whole idea, the notion a good person with a gun can stop a bad person with a gun has yet to be proven. And take a step further, the Vegas shooter, there was at least, now that we're doing the census of that, there was at least 20% of the people in the crowd were armed.
And nobody knew where the shots were coming from, and brandished their weapon and aimed where they saw the burst come from.
The top reason for them not pulling their weapon, do you know what it was?
They were scared.
Scared, but they were afraid that they would be seen holding a weapon and shot by an officer. And this is true because we know in Indiana, a person took down a person with a gun on a bus. There were 2 white males. He had it under control, dispatched it and disclosed that to the officer. Officer gets there, shoots the hero. So they don't discriminate in the sense of what it is, but they will take out any threat they see regardless. So with that being said, I don't know if having guns, I know for sure giving teachers guns is not the answer.
It's a terrible idea.
But what can be done to help curb this? There's been more people have died in school shootings now than there are people in the in the country. So I mean that are in days in a year right now. So what are we doing?
I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about. I really feel like giving teachers a weapon is not the way, but they do need to know how to defend themselves.
No, that is not the job of a teacher.
Okay, so a teacher's job is to train our children in what we consider core knowledge. But what does a teacher do if they're in a situation and like this? What does the teacher do? The teacher just
That's my whole point. We as a country are very reactionary.
Yeah.
But
I'm not saying the teacher needs a weapon. I'm not.
No,
saying
but
that
I'm saying let's not cure cancer. Let's prevent it. Why does a teacher have to think? Why does a student have to think about how to protect themselves during a mass shooting?
Unfortunately, because it's become a reality in the
So
country.
let's look at the core issue. People say guns don't kill people, people kill people. But we send people to war, we don't send them without guns. Because people don't kill people.
We send them with bombs, we send them with knives, we send them
North
with
Korea, if with this logic that guns don't kill people, people kill people, we wouldn't care about North Korea having military, we wouldn't care about North Korea having a nuke. Because technically the nuke won't kill anybody. It's Kim Jong-un, right?
Kim Jong-un, okay. But I go, even with the gun thing, I feel like we always can take it a step further. We talk about, an inanimate thing does not kill animated things. Animated things kill animated things, and sometimes they use inanimate objects. So like drugs is an inanimate object. And if a person abuses that inanimate object, they can kill themselves or other people. So alcohol, a car. There's a bunch of inanimate things that human beings use.
But people I feel like people mislabel. A man can kill another man. A gunman can kill multiple men.
He can do it more quickly. Doesn't mean that he can kill more. He can just do it faster.
And if you can kill one person faster than it takes me to kill somebody without a gun, it makes you more dangerous.
Why?
Because you have the ability to kill more people than I do.
No, that's not a fair statement. We can kill the same number of people. You're just doing it faster than me. It doesn't make what you do or I do.
If me and you had a stop clock, okay,
we're using a time issue. It's not a time issue. It's more of a morality issue.
Okay, and let's go with more. If you asked me how I was going to defend myself and you gave me two options, a gun or a baseball bat, which one would I choose?
That depends on how I was feeling.
You don't know what's gonna come through that door. I'm here to tell you I'll pick the gun. Because even if it's a hand-to-hand thing, I know I can handle myself to that extent. But if it's someone who comes through the door with another gun, my baseball bat is now useless.
Yeah.
So a Green Beret said within a 7-foot circle, he can't draw his weapon fast enough. And that takes me back to that point where I was talking about the fantasy world, the superhero effect. Scenario. Because this is a scenario people throw at me all the time on the internet. Like, this is some profound, gotcha. This is a gotcha question. What do you do when you walk in your house and the person has a gun to your girlfriend's head? What do you do then? And I'm like, well, statistically speaking, you're going to do what 23% of the serial killers ask you to do. Because if you walk into your house and someone has a gun to your wife's head, you have two choices. Bum rush them and risk having your loved one's brain blown away, but you stop them from killing you. Or you get shot, and you get shot, you get put down, and maybe your loved one has a chance to call for help, to which the extent they'll probably be shot, and then the police will come and find 2 dead bodies. But let's take it a step further, because this is what they think is going to happen. You can't draw your weapon on someone who is already drawn on you faster based on space and distance within a 10-foot radius. You can't. Someone sees you with your weapon on, you are done for. So this is the scenario. What you think you're going to do is walk in, because most people keep their guns in safe places. bedroom, closet, or by the door. And unless you have access to those three options before you get to that targeted area in the house, you're not going to be prepared. So let's take it a step further. You walk in, this is what's going to happen. He's going to tell you to get on your knee. He's going to put the butt of the gun to the back of your head. You're going to wake up bound and drugged probably, and you're going to witness your loved one get sexually assaulted. You're then going to watch them be executed. They're then going to execute on you after they probably ejaculated on you. And the serial crime will continue. Because 23%, these are serial killer type scenarios. These are Hollywood movies you're making up. You will not survive. Like, people really think they're going to dodge 9 bullets, draw theirs, miss 9 times, have a kung fu battle, win, get head from their wife on the way to pulling the officer to taking the bad guy to jail, do a news article, and they're gonna have the cape and blowing in the background. Like, it is illogical for you to think that if you live in a situation where someone can break in your house and draw a weapon on your loved ones, please move. Please move. Why are you finding that more and this is me going on saying, I would rather move than have to kill someone. Is that something you feel you would do?
If it came down to me or them, they gotta go.
But I feel like at the same time, if you walked into a neighborhood and felt like this place ain't safe.
Oh yeah, I would never move to a neighborhood.
So I hear this. There's a great ad going out around right now where there's this guy who says there was these people outside of my house making noise and making death threats, and he said I went out there with my gun and shot at them, and he says I was protecting my land and my property.
You're being an idiot.
Upon closer examination, they were on a sidewalk, which is owned by the people, so he can sit there. And if someone's yelling obscenities outside of your house, and they haven't touched any of your property, I'll even take it a step further. They're standing on your property.
They're in your yard. They're on your porch.
That is not grounds for you to draw a weapon out. That is not grounds for you to shoot somebody. Someone playing in your grass. Because that's what it can be. That's how the courtroom will look at this. So if a bunch of kids played in your grass, would you shoot them? No, they're kids. I mean, they're on your property. This guy was on your property. Kids scream and yell obscenities while they play. So, and he went to jail for 2 years.
As he should have. And now he can't own a gun legally.
And like
but that's what's to me is wonderful, because that dude obviously had no emotional intelligence again, and he had a gun and he was registered and we knew exactly who he was.
Yeah.
And now he can never own a gun again because we know.
Definitely, and I mean that is amazing to me. So we're wrapping it up on.
All right, so let's give the people the things we talked about as far as. I know we talked about assault weapons. We said we definitely wanted 3 things. We needed a mental and emotional evaluation by a state authorized psychiatrist. If you got an assault rifle, you have to be at least 24 years old. And if you get caught with an assault rifle and it's not been purchased legally and you have not been through the process, mandatory minimum of 5 years of the felony record. And it's all time served. You get no probation, no breaks, no whammies, no pass go and collecting $200.
And we kind of ran down a lot of things, but ultimately, Eric, today, if somebody came to you and asked you to give and that's a great point, on assault rifles, based on our conversation that we had today, do you still feel assault rifles are needed in our community?
Are they needed? No. They're not needed. Do I personally need an assault rifle? No. In the back of my mind, do I have concerns about a tyrannical government? Yes, I do. Okay. But even then, I know how to use a pistol, so I'm cool. And
for some strange reason, I don't own any guns. I'm not a gun advocate. I just feel like I would put myself mentally in a situation where I wouldn't even have to. It'd be difficult. I know I could kill someone in the sense of defending myself. Like, if I had to defend myself. But I also know that if I can beat this person, even if this person could beat me, if I got the upper hand, I would do the most to incapacitate them before taking them out. It's just, I don't know, it's in my nature.
Mm-hmm.
I would save someone before you take someone scenario. But for all intents and purposes, guys, that is going to be just our little rundown of how we would handle this gun situation that our country is really struggling through right now. But thank you guys so much. And once again, just for sure, we want to send out our thoughts and prayers. Hopefully, our government steps up to the plate and at least helps us curb this issue, because we make up 5% of the world's population, but we make up 31% of deaths by gun. And this is number one in the world. We're number one in the world for mass incarceration of our own people and killing ourselves with our own weapons. And this is number one in front of Duterte's, the Philippines.
Yeah.
This is number one in front of Russia. This is number one in front of Syria. We have more people dying at the hands of our own weapons than military strikes that happen in Syria. So, with that being said, guys, if you still think that guns aren't an issue, I ask you to go to the 17 funerals being set up in Parkland, Florida, and express yourself at those situations. And if you do believe that there needs to be some type of change, I invite you to share this with people who might be of like minds, because whether we like it or not, change will come. And in the mass and the sort of change that will come, we can dictate to a point, but at some point we're not going to have that control. And it's important for us to understand what's it going to take for this to be done peacefully, democratically, and in favor of the people. Yeah. So, from us to you, this is Eric. This is Heero, and we appreciate you guys spending time with us today. This has been the Identity Booth. Eric, where can they find us?
At the Identity Booth on Instagram. Go on there. Hit the like button. Hit the share button. Tell you what, hit the follow button.
We need more subscribers, guys.
YouTube.
Subscribe. What's wrong with y'all? Like, just hit the button. Like,
not even just subscribe and hit the bell.
Like, yeah, like somebody asked me the other day, like, oh, I don't get your videos no more. I said, are you subscribed? They said, what's that? I said, come on.
It's YouTube. What you mean?
YouTube. Like, people don't really know how to work YouTube, and that's kind of bothering me.
You know why? Because they just go in there and they click a video, they watch the video, and move to the next video.
If you have a Gmail account, you can have a YouTube account. You don't have to if you just need one email account for Google, and you can just, man, why y'all got smartphones? Y'all be irritating me.
Hey, man.
Hey, we done here.
Yeah, man.
Identity Booth.